Welcome, everybody, to Buckeye Bar Guys here on Buckeye Bar Talk. Today is Saturday, February 20th, 2021. I'm Mike.
And I'm John.
Big show today. We're going to discuss, probably won't be too long of a show. We're going to discuss the basketball games from this week. Ohio State had two big wins. I believe their winning streak's up to 10 now.
No, it's 7.
7, okay.
7 in a row.
Yeah, I always get 7 and 10 mixed up. Should be 10. We'll go with 10. 10 sounds better. Now 7. So great job right now. They're still well on their way to being a number 1 seed for the tournament. So huge game tomorrow against the Weasels, the arch rivals from up north. So we're looking forward to that one. And then I think we're going to do a little fun thing afterwards, which I'm not going to describe yet. We'll describe it when we get to the segment. And then we'll finish up on some Michigan transfer news.
All right.
I always like relishing in when they look dysfunctional up there.
It's been a long time.
And they always look dysfunctional. So.
Fun fact that I came across yesterday is Ohio State's football team has lost as many Big Ten games within the last 5 years, so 15 to 20, as Michigan did last year.
Yeah.
It's always fun.
I always like finding those fun facts when you see just like the different things, like, and then you see the counter, how many days it's been since they've beat us. I mean,
right. But then, they've won 7 more games in a 100+ series.
Yeah.
Like that matters.
Even though we have a winning record since 1910, but it
is what it is.
Yeah. So
that's why I always love when they're I mean, sometimes you don't even, you give them whatever victory they think they just accomplished and you just move on.
When they don't realize that number is shrinking every year. I mean, we're children of the 90s. I mean, I remember when that gap actually meant something.
Well, I mean, think about just the domination that it's been in the last 20 years. I mean, how much when you and I first started watching,
it was over 20.
It was over 20 wins. They had to have been.
Yeah.
It had been close to 30.
Yeah. No, it was like it was like a 20. They were up 22-23 on us. And then it was like 50 something to 30 something. And
yeah.
Like it's cutting closer and closer.
Right. I know. It's like,
I mean, just thinking about it this way. If John Cooper would have had a 500 record, or, he was 2-10-1. If he was, so that's 13 games. If he was 6-7 or 5-8, I mean, that how much
we're talking
closer?
About what, like a 3-game series right now?
So,
and the thing is, I mean, 7, there's still a chance that, they get a good recruiting class. They change things around that they can keep it around there. But if it was at 3 games at this point, what we have coming in, what they don't have coming in, what they've lost, I would imagine Ohio State would, have that within 4 years.
Yeah. I've said it before that this series will be tied by, within the next 10 years. I do
agree.
believe that. I just the way everything's going, it would have to be such a drastic turn. So, I mean, you can only judge things on current information and just the way things are going currently, that how we're getting recruiting classes of. I mean, we might have it by 2030, but
that's what
by 2031, 2032, I mean, how 31 would be 10 years. So yeah, by 2030, I'm going to say it right now, we will have the series tied.
Or the lead.
Probably will be in the lead, but I will say tied. And
there's nothing to point you to the contrary. I mean, people are like, oh, rivalries, they go back and forth, but we're talking 20 years. Like, no, it doesn't go like this. And it's just, there's no end in sight.
There would have to be a lot of, there would have to be such dramatic, just rethinking of just everything.
Mean, he's getting in an amazing quarterback, but he's lost. What, they've lost so much.
Yeah. We'll flip this around a little bit. We'll get into basketball in a minute. So we'll bring the Milton stuff up.
Okay. Yeah.
Since we're already talking about Michigan, so we're not going back to them. But so he announced that he was transferring this week. I believe I read yesterday they have like 20 kids in the transfer portal.
Well, Charbonnet transferred too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And McCaffrey, he transferred this year. That's I don't know.
How many opted out? I mean, Nico Collins, he's looking slim. He was looking good at the bowl practices that he was at. I think it's the Senior Bowl or whatever bowl game he was at. I think they said he dropped like 20 pounds, which he was always so good. But it was like, that was the one thing. It was just, he seemed slow. He was, he was just a big body. He could go up and get the ball, but he didn't really he couldn't, get to that second level. He couldn't get past cornerbacks, and he looked a lot more electric. So it just shows, once you get away from that program for a little bit, what you can do.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just, I mean, the 20 kids, and I get it. The transfer portal is definitely becoming college football free agency. I mean, the NCAA needs to realize that and just, allow it to happen one time. It's your one time going to the transfer portal. And then if you go to transfer again before you're a grad kid, you got to go through, you got to get a waiver and blah, 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 what the rules are now. But I mean, it is what it is at this point. But I mean, down here in Columbus, Ohio State media, would be, if they had 20 kids, and that would be front page news in Columbus, and on the front page sports front page. That would be like, what the heck is going on? Some people will be questioning Ryan Day. Is it he need to go?
Oh, absolutely.
They would be doing the same thing if Urban Meyer was the coach. Urban Meyer had a lot of capital built up over his career. The media would not. People want to say, they'd be, everybody kisses Ohio State's butt. And to a point, local media does. That happens outside of the big cities of New York and Los Angeles.
Yeah.
Your local media does that for you. But
I'm pretty sure like Austin and Tuscaloosa, I think they're all loyal to their programs.
Yeah, but I wonder what there would be people questioning Nick Saban if he had 20 kids in the transfer portal down there.
Yeah, I know.
So I just don't see, I don't pay a lot of attention, but I do look to some of their papers up there. I do read, articles from the Detroit Free Press and stuff in regards to Michigan and their Sports Illustrated site, just because, I try to keep up on some of the stuff going on up there just because, so we can talk about it. And, there are rivals, there are the Big Ten. So, like I just said, I like relishing when I see that they're down. So, it's funny to me. And this is just, I don't get where he's not being called out. And like, how the heck these are your recruits. Why are you not being called out for this stuff?
I know. And the Joe Milton one, he made him a starter. I know he got replaced. I didn't see him transferring, but I think that means they're probably all in on was it McCarthy, the kid coming in?
Yeah.
He looks good. I would take it that means that they're all in on that 5-star, and Joe Milton's time has passed, but he has 3 years of eligibility left. He graduated, which is crazy that you graduate with 3 years of eligibility, but the COVID year kind of, does that for everything. So yeah, he's a graduate transfer, 3 years of eligibility. I don't know where he'll go.
It'll be interesting to see. I think somebody could, he definitely had a nice arm. He was raw. You can tell he's not getting the coaching that
he needs someone to work with him.
If he goes to one of these schools that actually have some, quarterback smarts and stuff like that, he could be a legitimate threat. He's got raw talent, and if they could get a coach that could develop it to the correct thing, he could be a very dangerous college quarterback, or possibly even more.
I'm trying to think who would be a good landing spot for him. It'd probably have to be somewhere small. I think Riley has too many quarterbacks coming in that really would pique his interest with Milton.
I would love to.
Maybe Texas.
It'll be Texas. I know they just got a 5-star.
But he's not going to be there till next year.
I don't know who their offensive mind is. But what about a place like, I don't know who Luke's got offensively down there, but a place like maybe Cincinnati, that could be an interesting place.
Be a good fit.
Possibly Malzahn down in Central Florida. I don't know. South Florida's got a decent team. There's different places where he could end up in that Conference USA, American.
For a second, I thought Malzahn he coached Cam. I was going to be like, I could have another run with it, but that was Gene, wasn't it?
Yeah.
He got his 1 year run.
Yeah. So possibly somewhere like that. You mentioned Texas. Maybe Texas. Possibly. I don't know who USC has, but he could end up somewhere that he could, but again,
he needs someone to work with.
He needs somebody that's got a good quarterback mind here, whether it's the head coach or not, that they need to be able to work with him.
I'm just shocked that, a guy that was in the NFL as a quarterback for so many years just struggles this mightily to get good quarterback play at his school.
Well, that's the thing. He was called the quarterback whisperer. And I mean, every year you hear from Michigan, well, wait till he gets his quarterback. Well, now he's had his quarterbacks and he's still doing.
I think Andrew Luck was just good.
Yeah. Starting to look that way.
I think Andrew Luck maybe learned just a lot from his dad.
Yeah. Maybe it's more that he understood quarterback play before he got to Stanford. And I mean, I'm not saying Harbaugh is not competitive or anything like that. Maybe then, you just breed that competitiveness, but I don't even think he's that competitive anymore. It's like he's being okay with what's going on. And that's like crazy to me, and knowing from what you just know from him from being in the NFL. I mean, I was too young to really understand him at Michigan in the 80s. And I mean, I remember him as a pro quarterback, and on different teams. I mean, he did bounce around some, but I know him from being a college coach and being a pro coach. And I remember mainly from the 49ers. I mean, I didn't follow Stanford that much. I remember watching the game when he beat USC, but I mean.
Right, yeah. And I got him. I just feel like he always wanted a pro gig more than college anyways. It's kind of weird to me that, I mean, I think he's kind of ruined any chance he has going back to the NFL with how his teams have done recently. What else was I going to say about him? It's just, he hired his whole staff's a bunch of young guys now.
Yeah.
So I don't know. We'll see how they, sink or swim at this point. But I think the oldest guy on the staff isn't even in his 40s.
Yeah. And then I think I don't know if we talked about it off air or we brought it up a couple of shows ago, but we talked about, that high school coach, which it was, I can't think of the kid's name, his top running back.
Yeah.
That was actually interested in Ohio State as well, but Ohio State got Evan Pryor.
And
was it offensive line coach? He's the one replacing Warner, right?
I think he's going in as the offensive line coach, and because Mike Hart came in as running back coach, and Harbaugh's relative is now the special teams coach because he was one time the running back coach, I think. So, yeah, the kid's high school coach is now their line coach, I believe, which he's never had a college gig before. And
what's taking him so? I mean, this is not a Michigan show, but what's taking him so long to hire Mike Hart as running back coach? I mean, that just seems like
I don't know,
a thing he should have done 3 years ago. Like,
the guy has no sense about smart hires. The game evolved around him, and he wasn't, his team was not equipped to compete in that type of game, and then he lost his identity. So now he can't do the things that he wanted to do, but he can't do the things that he used to try to do. And Wisconsin beats the crap out of him up and down the field because he can't, go head to head with them anymore. He can't line up with people, but he doesn't have the athletes or the coaching to compete with your Ohio States that have the better all around talent either.
Yeah. And it's not even about just having better athletes and stuff like that. I mean, from when you think about Cooper, when we talked about the story, we started watching Ohio State in 1995. So, I mean, we have been watching Ohio State since those great years of Cooper right there in the middle. And then
we saw a couple rough years at the end of his tenure.
And then you see Tressel until they hired Rich Rod, which was a stupid hire. And I'm not getting into it, but where Michigan could compete and possibly beat Ohio State. I mean, in all those years, Ohio State had better records than them and all the time, but there's a couple years in there where they didn't. But the most of those years Ohio State did.
Right.
And Michigan, where they beat Ohio State is because they were tough.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
And sometimes they out-toughed Ohio State. Ohio State might have better athletes, but there was times in those mid-90s teams where, I mean, you've looked how strong and just powerful some of those Buckeyes teams. Well, when you watch some of those Michigan games, and I remember them,
their defensive line was tough.
Michigan, outplayed them and they were more physical than them at different times. And that's that's just completely missing now. I mean, you talk about Wisconsin. I mean, look at Ohio State. I mean, and this is what Harbaugh was supposed to get them back to, being the tough Michigan football program. Ohio State runs it up and down the field on them like it's nothing right now and just pushing them around. And they're the more physical team. This isn't Rich Rod anymore. That's bringing small West Virginian guys in there to play football. I mean,
and Jim Harbaugh set the program back much further than Brady Hoke ever did.
Yeah. At this point,
much further.
At this point, Michigan, you guys should have just kept Brady Hoke.
I mean, they really should have. I mean, 16 and 17, and Harbaugh has some of his guys there, so I'm not going to say he did it with Brady's guys, but those were like his peak years that he gave real competitive games to Ohio State. Now, you can say that, JT Barrett was the quarterback and run game with, Weber splitting with Dobbins. It really hadn't evolved in 2017 yet.
And Beck sent the offense back.
Beck sent our offense back, but only 1 year, it was easily fixed.
Yeah.
But those were, the peak years were those 16 and 17. And it's just, it didn't get closer though. It's gotten so much further away talent wise.
Yeah.
And they look, I said it last year in the games that they were playing. Like I know they beat up Minnesota game 1. They were slow and they look small. Like they don't look like Division I players out there.
Yeah. Yeah. So 2030, this series will be at least tied.
I think so too.
So on to basketball. So Ohio State played 2 games this week. They won both of them. They beat Indiana and then they beat Penn State. So we'll start with Indiana. Ohio State won 78-59. And then I'm just pulling up the box score. The Buckeyes, Lydell had a great, when we were talking about Lydell from the game before against Maryland, where he didn't have so much of a great offensive game. He dominated offensively in this game, 19 points, 6 for 12. Had some good rebounds. He was very strong under the hoop throughout the game. I'm just thinking back from last weekend because that was the game I actually watched.
I got to watch a lot of that.
I watched more of the Indiana game than I ended up getting to watch Penn State. And then, Washington ensuing, Washington have 12, so he had 16. Again, I'm just quite impressive. I know Indiana's not Indiana of old, but just again, this team's just looking really, really good. I'm starting to think that, not only could this team get a 1 seed, but this team could be a threat to get to the Final Four.
I think so too. And also, I think this team just, because like we've said before, the Big Ten, you play a lot of close games. So I could also see this team losing, early and us being disappointed just because we've lived that before. But they look, that was the game I got to see more of. They look really complete on offense. I know you're missing like a really big man, which again, that's not, I know more so in the NBA that they've gone away from that than college, but that'd be very helpful. But they look, they look good. And Justice Suing, just think about like Mike Conley's and, D'Angelo Russell for the year he was there, like Evan Turner, like how important is it to have a guy that can finish? Like,
oh yeah, definitely.
They've been missing that for so many years. They've always had like a good presence down low, like your, the Wessons, like they were just there, and I know Caleb could go kind of in and out, but like I know they had, I can't think of their names. They had a couple of really good ones the last couple of years that got drafted like in the second round, but yeah, he was definitely a good transfer from Cal. I know we don't ask him to do as much as they did at Cal, but just seeing him finish with that, going to his left, I was very impressed. I was like, wow, that's something that we've been missing for a while. Is a guard that can do that.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I do see some Conley, Evan Turner in them and that's important. If and especially in college basketball, that's just the big things in college. To me, you do need a big guy. I think that they don't have. There's no Greg Oden on this team. No. There's no, any of those guys.
He plays really hard though.
But Lydell, that Lydell and Young both look good under the hoop. Yeah. So they do have power under the hoop. Then you got guys that can drive the lanes and score. You got guys that can shoot. So it seems like they are fairly balanced on offense. Right. And, that's a good sign to me that, they're really to make a long run and possibly a winning run in the NCAA tournament. You just need to be as balanced as possible. You can't be too dedicated on the shot or just too powerful underneath. You got to have something at almost every level because that's, you don't know when you need to turn to something else because
it seems like they have that
because you don't know what kind of zone you're going to run up against. You might be playing a team that you've never played before or never even seen before. And they play this crazy 2-1-2 zone that's just dominant or a 2-3 zone and you can't get it inside and but then you're bad shooting the ball. Well, if you don't have good shooters, you're not going to break the zone. So
and I know that Zed, he might be a little undersized to like some real big centers that they might go against. But that guy plays, hard. And I saw he made some plays too that, back up against the hoop, and he was making like hook shots. So, yeah, I mean, I think they just, on all levels of offense, they look like they can get it done, that they have that ability. It's not like, oh my God, this team, all they can do is just hit mid-rangers and some team's going to just bury them with threes. Like, they can make the three. They can go, push the ball in. They can go in and out. They have a guy that can finish, that can drive on an ISO. So they're looking very strong, that I think they can make a run in the tournament.
Yeah.
Defensively, I know there's nothing like statistically that shows that they're an elite defensive team, but every time I've watched them, they've looked good defensively.
And I brought this up a lot with the Maryland game, and I saw this some with Indiana too. And like I said, I know Penn State was a higher scoring game, but I didn't get to watch a lot of the Penn State game. But against Maryland, I said, when it seemed like when they really need to start locking teams down, they can lock you down. Yeah. And, there was a stretch early in the game when Maryland was just easily going to the hole, and, but when they have to really start clamping down on people, it seems like they can. I mean, I'm impressed with what I'm seeing from Holtman as a coach too. I mean, that they are I think they're a good team. They're a team that could, and especially in this wacky year, and, and I don't hear nothing about asterisks. We don't know where some of the quote unquote elite teams are going to end up being in this tournament. I mean, they could be, and we did talk about this last week. This could be a year where you get caught with Kentucky as an 8 seed.
Well, that's right. You could get them in the second round, or a North Carolina. You never know. And
those teams do have the elite level of talent. That and I would get nervous playing one of those teams because they might be able to turn it on come tournament time.
Calipari didn't stop recruiting.
You could see an 8 or 9 seed go win the championship here, but But yeah, and I know it's a wacky year, but if you get some good bounces come tournament time, they're deep enough, they're balanced enough where they could win it all. And that would be
I don't see them losing to a 16 seed.
No, me neither.
That was Virginia, right?
Yeah.
And then they win the whole thing the next year.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So
are they technically defending champs?
Yeah, I guess so. Because
they won it the year before last, right? And then there was no. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, this tournament's going to be really interesting just with everything. Saw the NCAA announce that they are going to let 25% capacity in. Yep. So at least we're going to have some fans in these games, which will be cool. Maybe get some loud.
I know. I think the atmosphere is important. I think you need to have some fans.
And that's one thing I've noticed now. And, now football season's over, which it's so important football season too. But I've watched more college basketball over the last couple of weeks and flipped some ESPN games on, watched some Buckeye games. And, you just miss, you do miss when Duke, North Carolina's on the game and, not seeing just a full, stadium, full arenas down there. And it's the same thing up here. We do have some, I know you're not some of those programs in the ACC and stuff like that, but there are some good atmospheres in the Big Ten. And
my God.
When you think about Michigan State and even up there, Michigan and down here in Columbus at different times, and even some of the smaller arenas.
You don't win.
Purdue and Iowa, they've always had good crowds.
You don't beat a top team on the road in the Big Ten. And that's just it's a non-factor this year.
Yeah. So just crazy. All right. Just real quick onto the Penn State win. So Buckeyes won 92-82. Like we said, we didn't get to watch as much of this one, but again, Liddell had just another monster game, 23 points. Washington had 21. They were the two big scorers on the team. So again, they have some guys where you can mix the ball around. You can have 3-4, guys in double digits. And then you got two guys that if they got to be the ones to score 20 plus points, they got guys that can score 20 plus points.
Well, I think they got a couple guys on that team that can score 20 plus points. And I think you can get Justin Ahrens. You can get there. I think you can get 15 out of him with his threes. Seth Towns is always good for a big shot. Liddell's ability, his shooting is getting so good this year. Like his evolution that he can start hitting more, outside shots, even hitting threes has been huge. It's Kyle Young, right?
Yeah.
That guy, it just surprises me just how hard he plays. Yeah. It's just amazing. Like he's like the bigger Aaron Craft.
Yeah.
Like Aaron Craft you knew he wasn't the best. On defense, I would take Aaron Kraft against any guard. I thought Aaron Kraft, especially when he had was it Shannon Scott?
Yeah.
When they were the 2-point guards.
Yeah.
And they both were pretty much like mirror images of each other with how they played on defense. And I mean, no one played as hard as Aaron Kraft, but they both had fast hands. They could get all the steals they wanted. And that's just like that young, just the effort he puts out there. He's just like, to me, he's like the big Aaron Kraft.
I've always said, though, the one thing that those Ohio State teams missed out on if they would have just got Trey Burke. And if they would have ended up with Burke, and even if that would have meant losing on Scott, I mean, Trey Burke and Aaron Kraft.
A guard that can finish.
That would have been.
Yeah, I know. A guard, that's what, and I thought Shannon Scott, I didn't realize, because he was, I knew less about basketball then. He was a top point guard in the country. I'm like, here you go. And it's like the guy, he was really, really good at defense, but outside of that, he didn't give you a whole lot offensively.
Yeah. So just back to this game. So Washington and Liddell. Liddell went 8 for 12. Washington went 6 from 9 from the field. Washington 4 from 5 for 3-pointer, and Liddell was 2 from 2. So again, showing both there where they can get in under the hoop. Yeah, outside shots, get into the lanes. I know Dwayne Washington's impressed me a couple games I've seen of him being able to drive the ball too. So again, this team, I'm liking the balance and on the levels right now to where I really think that they can make a cool run. And I think they have as good as a chance as anybody else. So yeah, like I said, I didn't watch a lot of the Penn State game. I didn't really get to watch until towards the very end of it. But Ohio State, they kept the lead where it was, and they even extended it towards the end of the game. I know there was a lot of fouls and everything, but the game was, I think it was within a 5-point game with 5 minutes left, 4 minutes left. And that's hard to hold sometimes in college basketball. Mm-hmm. And the game didn't get within, they didn't tie the game or anything. They kept it where it was and they extended it. So. Yeah. So big ones tomorrow, 1:00 on CBS.
I don't really know much about the Michigan team.
Yeah. And then it's weird because when really, they have one loss. So that when you get into the kind of the minutia when I really start watching basketball a lot right after football season. Well, they suspended their athletic programs because they had that new COVID variant, and so they took a break. Was it a 2 or 3 week break from?
Yeah, they were gone a while.
Yeah, so we haven't really got to see Michigan. I saw a little bit of the stats from last week. Their game that they're just now coming back. So they looked. Against Rutgers, they beat them 71-64. So, again, you see what they've recruited over the last few years. They are a good basketball program. They are a
basketball school.
That's what their fans like to throw at you, Buckeye fans, now that they're a basketball school.
Hey, they've lost, more. They've lost more championship games in basketball than Ohio State's lost in basketball recently. So,
So I believe that I saw Ohio State was like a 2.5-point favorite, which ain't nice. Most people think Ohio State's going to win here on the ESPN predictor.
Well, they got the hot hand right now. Like we said, 7 in a row. That's not easy in the Big Ten.
Yeah.
Big Ten is loaded.
No. Yeah.
And exactly. It's still the road down, even like Ohio State. You still got Iowa again. Don't they have Illinois again?
Yeah, they have. There's some hiccups here, or there's some roadblocks where they could drop these big 3 that they got coming up, and then they
look like a 7-loss season,
and then you're a 2, maybe 3 seed, because
I think if they lose all 3 of them, I think 3 seeds possible, but they still had so many top 15, top 20 wins. I almost feel like a 2 seed. Barring like a first round knockout in the tournament of the Big Ten tournament, I feel like a 2 seed's kind of locked up.
It seems that way. But like I said, there's, coming down the stretch, there's some tough games in here, and they could, a 2 seed seems locked up. I think that's where they would and they're not going to finish any less than that, especially when you think about the elites. I mean, they're still a named program. They'll have the firepower to get to the 2 to be on a 2 line.
Right.
So, and when you think about there's none of the elites. I mean, normally when you think about it in a normal basketball year, you always have Duke, North Carolina, Kentucky, and Kansas are always up there somewhere. So, I mean, they are those 4 right there are always taking 4 of the 8.
Yeah.
Normally 2 and 1 seeds. So, I mean, you don't have those type of teams up there right now. So, I mean, Ohio State's a name brand. Ohio State very easily can still, I think they would be a 2 seed, even if they dropped all 3 of those games. I would love to see them. I think 2 and 1, man, that guarantees the top seed.
I think so too.
A top seed.
Yeah, absolutely.
They could be, again, Ohio, the Big Ten could have 3 or 4 seeds in the top 2.
I mean, do you think, honestly, would there be any chance if Gonzaga or Baylor were in the Big Ten that either one of them would be undefeated?
I don't think so. I don't. Big 12.
I don't know much about them again, but
Gonzaga's, I mean, especially in a year like this where you didn't do as many tournaments early on and stuff like that. And even though they did have those bubble sites early, so maybe they did play. I mean, I don't know exactly who Gonzaga played early in the season, but
we were watching football
when they get into their conference. I mean, they are a shoe-in. I mean, usually Pepperdine's the only school that's a competitive team with them. I think
St. Mary's,
or is it St. Mary's?
which I think they beat them yesterday.
Yeah,
2 days ago.
I mean, those, and I think Pepperdine's in with them too. A couple times they've beat them. A couple throughout the years.
A couple maybe years ago.
It seems like years ago now too, but
I don't know if Pepperdine's been that competitive recently.
Yeah, St. Mary's. That's who I would probably think of. Tough. But yeah. So I mean, Gonzaga, they don't play atop the spot. No, I'm not saying Gonzaga ain't good. I mean, they're well known who they are. I mean, they've been there for now 2 decades almost. I mean, they've been a team. So the one thing you brought up to me, and I never realized this, but then I kind of looked into it a little bit after you said it. So Holtman, he started this. He's doing his own version of the Gold Pants Club.
I think this is official, right?
I mean, from what I'm reading now, yeah, it must be that it seems like people are talking about it. I saw a news article that Ohio State's going for another golden jersey. And
so I believe my understanding is if you go through an entire year without a loss to Michigan in basketball, now I don't know, is that just the 2 regular season games?
It seemed like they're I don't know. I mean, I'd have to read more into the rules about it, but I don't know if the tournaments count.
Okay.
But
you get, then it's like the gold pants in football, but it's a little gold jersey. It has the score and year on it. Yeah. So I mean, Ohio State guys, they just get it. They just get it. Like,
yeah, we're
going to be the basketball school before long.
Hey,
we'll be both.
I'm fine with stuff like this. I mean, that just always puts something on those games, and and that's actually been important for football. I mean, these guys still care about it. I mean, basketball, I think Ohio State and Michigan are going to be competitively more in tuned with each other over the next several years than football is.
Yes.
And so football, I mean, the coaches, and now you see Holtman's understanding that beating Michigan is a big deal. It's a big deal to the Ohio State fan base, and maybe beating Michigan in basketball is not the same thing as beating Michigan in football, but Ohio State fans love it. Now, when you got their fans talking about they're a basketball school, now that's just something
you want to beat them at basketball.
That's Twitter ammunition that, hey, we're beating you at basketball now too.
I mean, that really shows me that he gets it, that he wants beating Michigan in basketball to mean as much as beating them in football. I just think it's awesome.
No, I love it too. And, I'm fine with that. People, there's still some people outside Ohio State that make fun of the whole gold pants thing. Oh, you just need your little trinkets and, blah, blah, blah. But you know what? Whatever.
They end up winning the game.
And of course,
I bet you wish some Buckeyes had less gold pants these last decades.
Yeah. I know a lot of, it seems like every year you talk Buckeyes, every graduating Buckeye talks about how they have 4 or 5 pairs of gold pants. So,
yeah.
So, but yeah, no, I really enjoy. I like seeing what I'm seeing from him as a coach, and I know there was a lot of talk about that this week. There was a lot of And I kind of remember this is kind of, even though maybe it's a little different, a situation, it's kind of reminding me of the Jim Tressel, Glenn Mason thing, when there was a real divide in the who they should have hired. And, there was a lot of people that upset they hired Holtman over Archie Miller. And,
look at their records.
So, I mean, it looks like they absolutely made the right call. And so
they were pretty even at first, but I think Holtman's just proven that he's the better hire.
Yeah, exactly. And so,
I'm glad with where they went with that.
And me too. So on to our.
Can I actually add just one thing?
That's fine. Just throw it in, whatever you want.
Just spend a little bit of time because I think it would be a miss if we didn't talk about this. The recruiting dead period was extended in college football. What are these guys doing to these kids, man? I mean, it is safe for these kids to go on campus to meet with coaches.
Exactly. If players can be, if your players can be there, then these kids can, I mean, maybe add in a couple extra rules that you can't take them on the normal tour of facilities and stuff. And, you can't take them
off season. Like
you can't take them. And plus, aren't the kids still at home?
Yeah, I don't know all that, but Mike, anywhere you go, like if you're having like an event, you take their temperature. Hey, have you had COVID in the last 2 weeks? Come on in. Like
masks are required.
Yeah, I don't see why they got to keep holding this up. They're doing a disservice to these kids. They want to get on campus. They want to meet these coaches, and it's affecting teams down the stretch.
Yeah.
I mean, you want JT Tuimalo wants to go meet with people.
Yeah.
You need to let him go talk to his coaches.
And you can't just expect the families to be, having to pay a bunch of money to take,
their own trips
and stuff like that. I mean, this is the part of the game. They get their visits.
Not every family is set up like that. A lot of times that's why these kids play the game, that they take it so seriously. They get to this level is to take care of their families.
Yeah. It's about, they want to use, using football. Whether it's going to the NFL or being on, college athletics, gets you on a lot of, there's a lot of alumni who own businesses and stuff.
Yeah,
and
sure.
I'm not talking about, the guys from Ohio State football that go to the NFL. Yeah, those guys, that's why people come play Ohio State football when you think about how many guys they've put in the NFL. But go look through the list of the guys that didn't make the league and what good jobs they're in. And, a lot of them started their own businesses and a lot of them got hired on at places because of who they were, because somebody that knows Ohio State or that's very powerful within that company, whether it's an owner or a president, CEO, he graduated from Ohio State and, I'll hire him. Yeah. I know what they're about, those football players. And that's the type of leader I want, on my team. And so
I agree.
So, yeah, this is just stupid on the NCAA. And again, the NCAA is always behind stuff. And, there are going to be people, this is a safety thing, blah, blah, blah. If these kids can play football, if they can be in workouts and stuff like that, you can have kids come visit the campus. Maybe they're not allowed to bring as many. You can only bring your mom and dad. You can only bring two parents or up to two. You can't even bring a sibling. It's
one parent. I don't care.
Two guardians or one guardian, whatever rule to limit it. Just throw in a couple rules and let these kids visit campus.
Agreed.
All right. So we wanted to do something a little fun. We were trying to talk about it. You threw it a little bit out on Twitter. And this came off of, it was something kind of we designed. It was something the Cleveland.com guys on their podcast and different things that they were talking about. And we kind of adapted it to, something. It was basically we were thinking, and so you take two offensive guys, skill players, one from the Urban Meyer era, one from the Jim Tressel era. And then you had to pick one of those guys as the coach. So is this an Urban coach team or is this a Tressel coach team? So we are each going to do one from each coach. And so we have our guys. So I'll let you start. Let's start. You want to start Tressels or you want to do?
Let's do Tressel first since, he was there first.
So. All right. So Tressel, all right. So Jim Tressel's the head coach. So you pick now one skill guy that played for Tressel, one skill guy that played for Urban that you think would mesh together and play perfectly under Tressel football.
All right. Well, I did want to do an honorable mention real quick. I was having a hard time with offense for an Urban guy, so I thought a defense real quick. Chase Young with Cameron Hayward, I think would have been nasty. But I thought about it more. I would have liked to see Troy Smith from Jim Tressel paired up with Michael Thomas.
No.
I think Michael Thomas was a real, obviously in the league, he's a really high skilled wide receiver. The quarterback play, he did great things at Ohio State, but I think with an elite quarterback, he would have done really special things. So I would have liked him. He could have fit right in with Santonio, Gonzo. I know Teddy was more of like a deep threat guy, but he would have just fit right in with those offenses. He would have been over, Roy Hall. He probably would have been over Gonzo in that offense. So yeah, that was mine. Mike Thomas with Troy Smith.
No, like that one. I'm going with Troy Smith also. And mine was Troy Smith with Zeke because when you think about Zeke, so you think about the 3 games that Zeke is most Zeke had a great career at Ohio State, but when you think of Ezekiel Elliott, the 3 games that stand out the most to everybody is Wisconsin, Alabama, Oregon. That 3-game stretch, Cardell Jones was the quarterback. So it was something a little different than he had with JT. JT is a more of a read zone guy, ran that Urban Meyer style offense. Well, they had to readapt it a little bit. Cardell's not that guy. Now, don't get me wrong. Cardell Jones was a freight train when he get running. He was scary to think about bringing down. Think about Zeke with a big arm like Cardell in his prime, Troy Smith, who could, now he wasn't a Z or a JT type running back. He was a running back that, he could take on in the fourth quarter. He can third downs could become, he easily could turn those into first downs. How many 3rd and 8s did he make into first downs, or he just could scramble and just find Gonzo open. Imagine that guy with Ezekiel Elliott, with Jim Tressel, more of a Tressel style coach, which is a more of a typical, you turn the ball back, you hand it off to your running back, and the guy gets downhill fast. And that's
Zeke was always amazing with
that combination could have been scary as hell under a Tressel led offense. So, yeah, I would be all about that one.
Yeah, I like that a lot. Part of me, because I knew that's kind of where you were leaning. And since you had said it first, I didn't want to go and take that one. So I was thinking maybe Dobbins or a Hyde. But honestly, in my mind, Zeke was better than both of them. And I really think Dobbins did his best work under Day, which Day actually reminds me more of a Tressel offense. It's obviously much more explosive than a Tressel offense, but that kind of reminds me more so of that. So I did like Dobbins there, but I feel like Zeke was the better running back out of all of them. So Michael Thomas, I felt I think he would have shined more.
Yeah. I agree. All right. So I'm going to throw it to you again.
I think there's only one obvious answer here. You might shock me on this one. Now, for me, though, the hard part for this one is the guy to pair him with. So I would put Ted Ginn in Urban Meyer's offense any day of the week. I think Urban Meyer would have got Ted Ginn a Heisman Trophy, how much he would have showcased him in his offense. This is without the special teams plays that he still would have hit on, because that was the fastest guy I've ever seen play college football, maybe by a long shot. But can you imagine all the reverses, all the stuff they do with Paris Campbell, but a faster, more skilled receiver doing it? I put him on the 2018 team and I paired him with Dwayne Haskins. I think he still needs a guy with a big arm. So I was going to think about pairing him with Cardale, but Dwayne Haskins can hit those intermediate stuff much better than Cardale could. And I think Ted Ginn would have just been amazing with him.
Yeah. I liked where you were going with that one. So I figured you were going to take my combo, which had Ginn in it. So I was thinking so I'll lead quickly and just kind of where, now I hadn't fully picked, and I was really scared here that I was going to have to come on the spot. So I was thinking Terrell Pryor going with, and then I was like, is it Curtis Samuels? Do you go with, and then I was leaning really Paris Campbell,
that's a good one though.
I think that, that would have been a good combo, one of those receivers, that could go with, that could do multiple things, that with Pryor would be extremely deadly. So I would have liked something like that. But I'm going with Ginn too. So Ginn's my Tressel guy. And who I'm actually going with, the Urban Meyer guy, is Braxton Miller. And that was one of my pick. And here, think about this. everything you said, that Ted Ginn would have been the perfect Percy Harvin role for Urban Meyer. Now you think about Braxton Miller on that 2012, 2013 teams. So you got Carlos Hyde in the backfield, and now you got not only Miller that can do all kinds of crazy stuff, but now you got all those added things that Ted Ginn can do too, that from reverses to different types of options that they could have ran with him to, just easy slant passes that and Miller had a strong arm. And then you think about him going down the field. Well, Braxton Miller had no problem hitting receivers downfield. And God forbid, and if they were open, he could hit them. I mean, he was he maybe has struggled with some accuracy issues, but the one thing where he was accuracy, you never heard him was guy open. I'm going to hit that guy down there right now for a touchdown. And so I think Ted Ginn Jr. and Braxton Miller, that was my combination. And Urban Meyer, with all the wacky things Urban Meyer could have done. Now that just screams to me. I mean, it's not a battering ram like Tim Tebow, but that just screams to me with Miller, Hyde, and I know I'm throwing in a third guy, but I'm just thinking of that 12 and 13 teams. That Miller, Hyde, and Ginn. I mean, that's everything that Urban Meyer loved.
Devin Smith there.
But that's everything Urban Meyer loved to do on offense.
Yeah.
He'd have his battering ram guy, which would be Hyde in this situation. He would have a quarterback that could run, and then he would have his Percy Harvin, and he could do. I just think he could do so many creative things with that. And Tom Herman's the offensive coordinator, which worked well with Meyer's offense. So yeah, that's who I was going with.
I do like that you said TP there, though. I kind of overlooked him, though. I said Ginn was the only obvious one, but Urban Meyer with Terrell Pryor.
Oh,
that would have been a dream for him.
He would have had a field day. I was just trying to, I had a hard time. Actually, I thought that was a no brainer on the Tressel side of it. I would just have a hard time figuring out who to pair him with.
I don't know who you pair him with that would have been better than what they already had, though.
He wasn't
maybe Curtis Samuel instead of like JT Barrett. Because I know Urban loved leaning on JT for those 3-4 yard runs. Pryor would have been amazing with Urban, though.
Yeah, exactly. So that's kind of where I was thinking. So let's do we'll pick let's pick our Tressel guys. So let's just take a little further, one more step. You first, your Tressel guy, your two with Tressel, and you can pick any Jim Tressel team to put those guys on. So what would it be?
I mean, I would have picked 06. So that way you still had a big receiving threat after. I mean, I don't think 05. I don't think you really needed. I don't know. That's hard for me because 06, I don't know. Michael Thomas still gives you what you lost with Ted Ginn in that national title game. I'm not sure it makes it different, but it does give you an elite receiver when Ted goes out because you don't have Holmes anymore.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I would say 2006. I think that would be something that they could win.
Yeah. So since I went with Troy and Zeke, my obvious one was 05. At 05, you had the receiving core, and then you had, and I love Antonio Pittman.
Oh, sure, but he's no Zeke.
I mean,
Antonio Pittman will tell you he's no Zeke.
And I've always thought Antonio Pittman was extremely underrated. I mean, I thought he could have been a much even better running back, but I mean, you put a Zeke with Troy Smith and, Holmes, Ginn, and Gonzo. I mean, damn you, Ryan Hamby. That's still a team that could have won the national title.
I felt so bad for those linebackers. I mean, that team, that feels like, and I know they had 2 losses, but that just feels like a team that the title was just stolen from.
Yeah.
And I know it had nothing to do with refs or anything like that. I mean, it was just 2 bad games that you lost very close. And it's just that team was so freaking good, though.
Yeah. All right. Your 2 guys, your Urban teams, any of Urban's years.
Well, so I can take those 2 guys and put them on any Urban team.
Any Urban teams.
I'd have to put them in 16. I still don't know if you have the offense with the running backs with Weber to win a title, but I mean, at least you have. Actually, no, I change it. I'd move it to 17 because there's no way that. I'm really torn on this one, actually, because the 17 defense isn't as good as the 16 defense. There's no way Haskins has the game Barrett did against Oklahoma, especially if you had Ted Ginn there to throw it to. At 17, you've got the running back situation more figured out. You know what? I'd say 16. I don't know if you can still beat Clemson because they shut you out, but I think it's a much closer game.
Yeah.
You probably don't lose that. You don't lose to Penn State, though, so you're probably the 1 seed. So I don't know who they're playing in that situation.
Yeah.
I don't know who it would be.
Yeah, that's true. I'm going to go with, and now I've always said I would never take a national championship team away. So the championship years would have been sacrilegious to me. So I wouldn't say replacing 14. Who I would replace Braxton and Ginn with, I would say, and just because they had such a lack of identity, I would say 15 because
I was thinking 15.
So say neither Cardell or JT are back in 15. So you have exactly what Urban Meyer likes to do. You have Braxton Miller, you have Tegan, you add Ezekiel Elliott to it, and you add all those guys that were back from
Michael Thomas.
Yeah, you had those guys that are back from that national championship year. So you're replacing Devin Smith with Ted Ginn Jr. And you got Braxton Miller. They'd be able to call the offense a lot better because that would be what Urban likes to do. And it just,
I like yours better. I'd say 15 or 17. I'm taking 16 off the board. We didn't have enough other threats outside of.
Yeah. So I would say 15 would have been mine on that one with those two.
I'll say 17 because you said 15.
Yeah. So I think that was a pretty little fun thing. Like I said, it was just an idea. The Cleveland.com guys, we listen to their podcasts, and you get text updates from them. They've been doing some of these things,
they've been like drafting
and talking about, who take a guys from each era, blah, 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 different things like that. And they're doing little things. So we decided all right, let's take a guys from each era and then add a coach to it, who the coach would be. And I just thought about that on the fly. Let's add a year to it also. So that'd be kind of fun. We'll do different things like that. I mean, we've been talking about
doing. We could add maybe Ryan Day into the mix.
Yeah, I'd like to see Day with a couple more years. I mean, right now it's like he's only got 2 years under his belt.
There aren't many I wouldn't have wanted to see play with Justin Fields.
Yeah, so right now I would take Zeke with Justin Fields. I would take again with Justin Fields. I would take.
Oh God, yeah.
I'm not gonna. Nobody with Justin Fields. I might even still take Braxton Miller with Justin Fields. Make Braxton the running back. And
yeah.
So, so it'd be, I think we're going to do stuff like that. I mean, the off season, make things a little fun coming down. We'll talk about, I think we're going to get into spring football next week. We want to do a segment on the quarterback battle. So we're getting closer to the start of spring. So I think we'll start that next week, and we'll kind of start looking different things. We want to look at spring coming into the next couple of weeks.
Yeah. I'll ask it on Twitter, but let us know, your thoughts on the QB battle, who you guys want to see win or what you want to see, go down with it.
But yep, and we'll definitely throw some of this other stuff. And we're talking about possibly doing some decade drafts and different things like that. And maybe we'll do an all Tressel team, an all Meyer team. We'll figure some different things out. We could do maybe
that'd be fun.
Maybe throw and we'll do some little what our favorite all Ryan Day team. Maybe we'll do some talks about some of that stuff too. I mean, like I said, we're not ignoring Ryan Day. He just doesn't have a big body of work. I mean, if he keeps on and a couple more seasons, you can add maybe where you get some. I mean, right now we've kind of had a lot of the same guys on. I mean, you're taking Dobbins as your running back. You're taking Justin Fields as
right. Yeah.
So maybe in a couple of years when we do.
Well, if you did it now, I mean, unless you were doing offense. I'm going to tell everyone Day's defense would get torched by an all Urban offense.
Yeah.
Those linebackers, they couldn't hold up against those guys.
Yeah.
I don't know if they could hold up against Tressel guys either.
That's true. All right. So we'll maybe we'll do this another round of this here, and we'll do it on the defensive side of the ball. I mean, you talked about some defensive players, and we'll.
I got to think new ones now.
Well, I mean, who would be your coach though, Urban or Tressel? So it would be well,
it has to be a caveat though that Larry Johnson for that one. Larry Johnson has to coach Chase Young.
Yeah.
If he's not Chase's coach, it has to be one of the Bosa brothers though, because they were a little bit more refined coming in.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So we'll get on out of here with that. So a good show. And was good talking to everybody today. So let's get on out.
Hell yeah. We appreciate you guys coming out. Thank you for stopping at the Buckeye Bar. Beat the crap out of Michigan tomorrow. I'm John.
I'm Mike.
OHIO.
Well, thank you for watching here, the Buckeye Bar Guys, here on the Buckeye Bar Talk Network. Please subscribe to the network, and when you get the little notification bell, just hit that. Hit all notifications. That way you will get alerted when all the new episodes come up. Comment, like the show, and we hope to you join our community. Come join our bar.
Like, comment, share. I'm John. That's Mike. We'll see you guys next time. Thank you.